here today. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Carl Klein, the director for the Washburn University Small Business Development Center out of Topeka, Kansas. And we're happy to be here this morning with Director Wayne Bell from the Wichita District, Michael Barrera from the Kansas City District, and TJ Berry, Deputy Director from the Kansas City District, to talk to you about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. At the closing of this presentation, the video and the slides will be posted. We are not going to send them out individually. They will be posted on the KSBDC website. And we also have with us today Mindy Lee. We'd like to thank her for hosting this presentation. She is the marketing specialist with Pittsburg State University. That said, I'm going to turn it over to our district directors to get us kicked off and started. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is Mike Barrera from the Kansas City District Office, along with my good friend Wayne Bell from the Wichita District Office. And the reason we kind of split up Wayne, and Wayne will kind of get into where his territory is. At the Kansas City, we basically handle the eastern part of Kansas, about 40% of it, and Wayne's office handles the rest of Kansas. But together we know that we need to get information to Kansas businesses, particularly Kansas restaurants, about this Restaurant Act. And you'll see the both of us working a lot more together throughout both our tenures here in our offices. So without further ado, we look forward to working with you on this particular presentation. I've got with me today TJ Berry. He's also at Kansas City District Office, and he's going to operate the slideshow. Okay, go ahead. Next slide there, TJ. Okay, what is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund? It's part of the American Rescue Plan Act that became public law on March 11, 2021. They appropriate over $28.6 billion for this fund, authorizing SBA to award funds to restaurants, bars, lounges, food trucks, etc. The money will be available until it's totally expended. And to be quite honest with you, $28.6 billion, while it sounds a lot, that's not going to be that much when you consider the millions of restaurants, bars, college towns, Texas, the Ozarks, California. Just going to be tons of people are going to be applying. So it's important. That's why it's so important that we get this information out to you now, so Kansas has its part in this particular program. Now here's who's eligible: restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts, caterers, bars, saloons, lounges, snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars, bakeries, ice cream shops, brew pubs, tasting rooms, tap rooms, breweries, microbreweries, wineries, and distilleries. Inns, if they can show that 33% of their on-site sales, they can show they are from bars, from food and beverage, and licensed facilities. Again, all this will be on the website itself and what they're going to post. So you can go back and look at this a little bit later. Next one. Now, the way this is going to work, SBA can provide up to $5 million per location, but it cannot exceed $10 million for the total applicants' affiliated businesses. Also, there cannot be more than 20 physical locations. The minimum award that will be that has to be applied for will be $1,000. Now, the good news is this for those, and some of you may not even know about this or care about this, but the good thing is that the applicants do not need to be registered in the SAM.gov. SBA will also not require a DUNS number or a CAGE identifier. You can apply with a valid unexpired ITIN. The individual tax number, you can check that information on irs.gov, and you can find out expiration FAQs and also irs.gov. Now here's some people who are not eligible. You cannot be a state or local government owned operated business. As of March 13th, 2020, own or operate more than 20 locations, regardless of where those locations do business under the same or different names or in different industries. You cannot have this is very important, you cannot have a pending application for or receive the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. Can't be a publicly traded company. You cannot have permanently closed, cannot be a nonprofit organization, and you have to be eligible for at least $1,000. Next one. Now this is, oh, go back. Okay, here's the different business organizations that you can be formed under. You can be a C corporation, S corporation, a partnership, an LLC, a sole proprietor, self-employed individual, independent contractor, tribal business, or an LLC taxed as an S corporation or sole proprietor. Okay. Next one. Can you get the next slide? Okay. Right now, the franchises are eligible for the grant. You have to be operating as a franchise and meet all the other program requirements. The franchise also must be listed on the SBA franchise directory. In the application portal, applicants will be able to look up their entity to determine if they're on the SBA franchise directory. For brands not listed on the directory, including brands that have previously been denied, the franchisor must submit the franchise disclosure document or other agreement and all other documents a franchisee is required to sign to franchise@sba.gov for review of SBA's other eligibility criteria. Next one. Bankruptcy. Applicants that are operating under an approved plan of reorganization, either under a Chapter 11, Chapter 12, or Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and meet all other program requirements are eligible for funding. And now an applicant is not eligible if it's permanently closed, filed for a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy, or filed for either a Chapter 7, Chapter 11, 12, or 13 bankruptcy, but is not under an approved plan of reorganization. Permanently closed does not include businesses who temporarily close their doors due to state or local restrictions or other pandemic causes, but are still in operation or have reopened. Next slide. Okay, so here's how other programs are going to impact the RRF. Any funds that already received through the Paycheck Protection Program will be subtracted from the applicant's final funding amount. Applicant is verified using their EIN, ITIN, or Social Security number associated with their PPP loans. The applicant received the PPP loan, you must use the same EIN number for the RRF application as you used in the PPP application. A lot of consonants there. If an applicant applied for a first draw PPP loan or for multiple locations under one EIN and subsequently applied for second draw PPP under different EINs, the applicant must provide the EIN for each entity that received the second draw PPP loan. Upon applying for RRF, the applicant must withdraw any outstanding PPP applications. Again, an applicant must not have a pending application for or have received a shuttered venue operator grant from SBA. Oh, go back real quick. Everyone's, and it's going to be in the application itself, everybody's got to certify that the current economic uncertainty makes the funding request necessary to support ongoing or anticipated operations. The reason for this is going to be a grant. This is not, you will not be going to banks for this money. It's going to be a grant you'll be applying for, and this is the language that the regulation and laws require. Okay. Okay, here's how you can use the expenses. It's very, very, very similar to the PPP expenses that you could use it on. One thing I do want to point out for construction expenses, the only construction and pensions that are eligible for this particular fund, for this particular grant, you can use the funds to do construction of outdoor seating, because that's been a special concern for a lot of restaurants. So if you use your money for that, it will be eligible. Expansion costs or construction costs are ineligible. And the other things are, again, very similar to what you've been doing in the PPP, including payroll costs, utility costs, maintenance expenses, food and beverage expenses, supplier costs, business operating expenses like insurance, marketing, fees, legal, point of sale equipment, payments on any business mortgage obligations, business debt service. Just can't prepay your principal and interest. Okay. TJ? Oh, he's locked up, Ken. Okay, here's the important part, is that they're giving you more time to use the funds. They must be spent on expenses that were incurred between February 15th, 2020 and March 11th, 2023. Remember, if the business permanently closed after receiving funds, the covered period will end when the business permanently closes or on March 11th, 2023. Any funds not spent on eligible expenses by the time the covered period ends must be returned to the government. Next one. After the awards have been exhausted, an applicant or entity must provide a detailed expenditure report and certification for the required period. So it's going to be very, very important that you keep detailed expenses or copies of your receipts. Until the applicant completes the use of the funds, beginning December 2021, you will be required to provide self-reported, unaudited data detailing use of distributed funds each year through 2023. SBA will provide additional guidance on what you're needed for that detailed reporting. Okay, DJ, one more. Okay, and right. I'm going to turn it over here to Wayne here in a second. But a basic, I've got the easy one. I'm going to give Wayne the tough ones to explain. But basic calculation, you will take your 2019 gross receipts, and then you will minus your 2020 gross receipts, and that's basically your grant. And then from there, you'll subtract your PPP loan. So in other words, if you say, for instance, you had $100,000 in gross receipts in 2019, your 2020, because of COVID, your gross receipts were $50,000. Normally that would be a $50,000 grant, but you've got $25,000 in PPP loans, whether PPP 1 or PPP 2. You add those up and subtract it. So that would leave you, if you got $25,000 in PPP, that would leave you $25,000 for the grant. At this time, I'm going to turn over to my good friend, Wayne, for the further calculations.
Hey, thank you, Michael. Good morning again, everyone. And just to, for those that may have joined a little late or what have you, I'm Wayne Bell, the District Director for the Wichita District Office. As Michael Barrera has pointed out, our two offices cover the state. Many of you may or may not know that. From Wichita, basically, we cover everything west of Topeka. And then the Kansas City District Office from Kansas City, Missouri, they cover the eastern third of the state, as well as they go over into Missouri, I believe, quite a bit. And I think Michael can clarify exactly how far over they go over. I think the dividing line might be around Columbia, Missouri or so. But, all of that said, we are determined to collaborate across all programs, everything that we do. So for those of you business owners that are joining us today, there's no wrong door. You can start with the Kansas City District Office. Eventually, there's going to be a handoff to the SBA resource that's most appropriate, to help you through your situation. And then also, I want to just a big, huge thank you here to the Kansas Small Business Development Center, because that's a critical part of our team collectively. Kansas Small Business Development Center does a great job, and they're there to help you with the complex questions and those live questions that you may have on your applications. So with all that said, I'll get back to, again, as Michael has pointed out, I guess a little bit more of the complexities here with how to calculate your loans, and then we'll go on to questions. And I'm looking here for time. I think we're doing pretty good on time. We're at about 9:15, so this shouldn't take us too long, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. So again, on to how to calculate your loan. So this second calculation option is for applicants that began operations partially through 2019. And so basically you would take your average 2019 monthly gross receipts, you would multiply that by 12, you would subtract your 2020 gross receipts, and then minus any PPP loan amounts. By the way, this calculation is actually, these calculations are designed to increase your award amounts. And I think they did this really intelligently, because what they want to do, and I'll show you some other things here later in the presentation, but basically what they wanted to do was make sure that, you know, our restaurants or caterers, all of these eligible entities would be able to receive, you know, the maximum amount of assistance intended to help you all. And so the asterisk there on the slide, applicants that began operations partially through 2019 may choose to use calculation 2 or calculation 3, which I'll cover here in a second. But calculation 3 is going to require longer time for SBA to verify your information. And we'll talk about that here in a second. All right, so for calculation 3, applicants that began operations on or between January 1st of 2020 and March 10th of 2021, and or applicants not yet open but have incurred ineligible expenses. We had a number of businesses that didn't even get a chance to open because they were kind of in the process of getting started, you know, perhaps having a building or their business getting set up, and then COVID happened. So we've had many entities that have been in that situation. So anyway, for those applicants not yet open but have incurred in eligible expenses as of March 11, 2021, so you would take your total amount spent on eligible expenses between February 15th of 2020 and March 11th of 2021. You would subtract 2020 and 2021 gross receipts, and then minus again any PPP loans. And then, so the asterisk down there at the bottom, again, applicants that began operations partially in 2019 may choose to use calculation 2 or 3. However, again, calculation 3 is going to take us longer. It's going to take the SBA longer to process because of the information that has to be verified. Next slide, please. All right. So again, this is all intended to increase the amount of your award. So do not include any of the following in your 2020 gross receipts: Paycheck Protection Program funds, first draw or second draw, SBA Section 1112 payments. The lending community knows what those are, but they are not to be included in your calculation. SBA EIDL loans, EIDL advance, targeted EIDL, any other grant funds received via the CARES Act is not to be included in your total receipts. Any state and local business grants, and final grant there, this Randolph-Shepard Act financial relief and restoration payments, again, do not include any of these in your gross receipts, and that is intended to actually increase the amount of your award. How do you apply? So by now, I'm hoping that everyone on this presentation today has had an opportunity to go out to the SBA website. If you haven't done that, please do so. Go out to the SBA website, visit the CARES, or I'm sorry, visit the COVID relief programs, and then you'll get to the restaurant revitalization program. I think the agency has really taken the right approach here. What we're trying to do is make sure the entire community that's eligible has access to as much information as possible before the application goes live. The application portal, by the way, is intended to go live April 30th, or it's probably going to be a day or so after that. So all of this information and everything that we're sharing is intended to get everyone ready so that when it goes live, you know what exactly you need to do. All right, so you're going to apply directly at restaurants.sba.gov, or for those of you that are using POS providers such as Square, Toast, Aloha, and Clover, you're going to be able to apply directly through their applications. This will help, and actually, if you apply that way, this will help SBA to expedite your applications. So I would encourage you all, if you haven't already had communications from your point of sale providers, would recommend reaching out to their support systems to get more information about when you're going to be able to apply with those third parties once this goes live. All right, and then finally, there's another avenue. Now this avenue is going to take longer. I highly recommend you all either use the website or your POS providers, because if you go through, there is the telephone option. If you go through that option, that's going to lead to basically you're going to have to, SBA is going to have to mail documents to you. You're going to have to fill out the documents, get those documents mailed back with any other supporting information. That's just going to take, and it's going to take more time, and it's going to draw out the time that it takes to get the awards. So that option is still out there, but the first two options are going to be the most efficient. Next slide. Okay, documents that you'll need in order to apply. Obviously, there's our application. It's SBA Form 3172. Make sure that is completely completed and that you just want to double check everything before that is submitted. There's going to be verification of your tax information. The IRS Form 4506T, it's all got to be completed and signed. That allows the IRS to share information with us. Ideally, you've got your 2019 taxes filed, right? And those that would be even better prepared would have the 2020 taxes done, but we certainly understand that many entities do not have 2020 filed, but that would certainly be ideal if it were that case. But going on, so your gross receipts documentation, any of the following documents demonstrating gross receipts are eligible. Demonstrating gross receipts could be utilized. So your business tax returns, your IRS Form 1120 or IRS Form 1120S, your Form 1040 Schedule C, Schedule F. For a partnership, obviously partnership, IRS Form 1065, including your K-1s, your bank statements, and then externally or internally prepared financial statements, such as income statements or profit and loss statements. What's important to note there, and we're going to talk about it here in a second, if your financial statements are prepared internally, we want those accompanied by a comfort letter, a CPA comfort letter, and I'll talk about what that is here in a second. Then finally, that final bullet there, again, those point of sale reports, including your IRS Form 1099K. The point of sale reports would really be beneficial. So if you're using any of those providers, their information is going to help streamline your approval. All right, so again, the documents that you need in order to apply also include for calculations 1 and 2, your SBA Form 3172, which is our application, the tax verification from the IRS, 2019 gross receipts, 2019 gross receipts and tax returns, and then 3 months of bank statements. If you don't have the information for 2020, certainly the 3 months of bank statements could be utilized by the SBA to verify, your gross revenues. And it is obviously preferred that the federal tax returns be filed for 2020. That again would be ideal. Obviously, again, the point of sale reports, those are ideal. These things are going to be accepted, but it could lead to a delay if you didn't have this information, and it may lead to a delay because SBA again has to verify this information as well. And then finally, the CPA comfort letter. Again, if your financial statements are prepared in a manner that is not, that wasn't done by a CPA, then the addition of a CPA comfort letter, SBA is citing that as something that will help to substantiate or verify your information. And so again, that CPA comfort letter, it's more or less just a letter that's telling the SBA it has at least been reviewed by a trained professional, a trained financial CPA or financial advisor that has reviewed your information and is endorsing what you have. All right, and so for calculation 3, again, all of the above. I think what's most important to note about the verification process again for calculation 3 is kind of that final part of what we have in front of you here. Again, the externally or internally prepared financial statements, such as income statements or profit and loss statements, signed, dated, and certified as to accuracy by the applicant. But again, having that accompanied by the comfort letter, that's going to be helpful. And if applicant submits expenses related to the following categories, we'll need the appropriate documentation. So your payroll documents, outdoor seating expenditures, we'll need the invoices, payments, and so forth. And then any business debt, lender loan statements, those sort of things, that would be helpful. And I'm trying to see here if there's anything I missed. You know, there's, for the most part, the first half of what you're seeing on the slide there is applicable to calculations 1, 2, and 3. All right. Okay. All right. And so then in addition to the documents on the prior slide, for applicants that are brew pub, tasting rooms, tap rooms, breweries, wineries, distilleries, or bakeries, documents that are going to substantiate that your on-site sales are at least 33% of the gross receipts or towards, you know, this restaurant, or I say restaurant or food service that we're citing above, okay? Which may include tax and trade bureau forms, state or local forms filed, or internally created reports for inventory management, sales reporting, or accounting software. For businesses that opened in 2020, the applicant's original business model should have contemplated at least 33%. So your financial projections should have forecasted at least 33% of the gross receipts and on-site sales to the public. So that was for those that would have opened in 2020. For applicants that are an inn, you know, a motel or something where you have a little restaurant there, documents evidencing that on-site sales of food and beverage to the public, so food and beverage, by the way, comprise at least 33% of your gross receipts for 2019. For businesses that opened in 2020, again, you should have reflected a forecast that indicated that food and beverage sales to the public was going to be at least 33% of the gross receipts. Next slide. Okay. If you have any questions, and actually this hotline is I believe open now. I believe you can call the hotline anywhere between 8 a.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's 7 a.m. to 7 Central for us. You certainly have, again, you can reach out to our local district offices. You've got the Kansas City district office, you've got the Wichita district office, and we're ready to answer questions. And probably email is going to be, believe it or not, the best way to reach us so that we can get your questions routed to the right folks as needed. All right, and then there's also help on the website in multiple languages. And again, it's important to note that the application portal is intended to go live April 30th or probably a day or so after that. And so we want everyone to apply also, because that demand, although we know there's 28.6 billion that's been established for the RRF, or the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, what the idea is, we want everyone to apply, because if there's greater demand, then that'll put pressure on our congressional delegation and our leadership to lead to more funding, which may lead to more funding, just given the widespread need for this program. All right, so best practices would be to provide complete documentation. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're not submitting anything that's incomplete. Leverage your resources. While it's not required, it's very helpful if you've got, the CPAs are preparing your financial statements, and certainly at a minimum, that comfort letter that we talked about. Application corrections. SBA is not able to make corrections on behalf of applicants, but applicants who require corrections will need to contact the call center or the hotline, and then they'll be able to get to your information. Applicants who still intend to apply for PPP, the RRF applicants are advised to complete their PPP application in advance of the RRF application, because again, deducting that PPP is actually going to help increase your award. So initially, there's going to be a pilot program which was intended to start. It may have started. I don't have this information to confirm. The pilot program may have started this past weekend. And if not, it's intended to start here just any day. And that is going to be, the agency is reaching out to businesses that were in the priority group, that were either women-owned, veteran-owned, or socially disadvantaged. The agency was reaching out to a small pool of those businesses based on their PPP applications. The idea was to work through the pilot period to try to, resolve any bugs or any issues that emerge during that phase. And then they're going to move on to the priority period, which is going to be day one when the portal goes live. So that first 21 days, those applications that are going to get priority review, if you will be again those in the category of women-owned, veteran-owned, or socially disadvantaged. All right, and then day 22, all eligible applications. And so again, you all don't have to wait. We want everyone to apply when that portal goes live. You don't have to wait, but just the priority in terms of SBA's review will be done in this manner. And so beginning day 22, all eligible applications will be processed and funded until the program funds are exhausted. All right, and then just a little bit about the priority groups. Again, we talked about this. They're women-owned, veteran-owned, or socially and economically disadvantaged. Applicants must self-certify on the application that they meet the eligibility requirements. And in order to be in any of these groups, we want at least, you have to have at least 51% of the business ownership in one of these categories, or it could be perhaps even multiple categories there. A business could actually meet all three of those criteria. And so I'm going to drive on. I think everyone understands the 51%. I would like to clarify the socially and economically disadvantaged. So, all right, so socially disadvantaged individuals are those who have been subject to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. This is something actually that comes into play in our contracting programs for SBA. And so we've adapted for this program. They're using that same approach to identify socially disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged, and then to support access and assistance to these underserved communities. Economically disadvantaged individuals are those who are socially disadvantaged, whose ability to compete in the free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital and credit opportunities as compared to others in the same business area who are not socially disadvantaged. All right. And if you have any questions about these definitions or what have you, you're welcome to contact our offices offline, and we can elaborate. And all right. So very important here. This is a big deal. Do not restructure your business just before applying here. You know, if you do that, you're going to, by merely going through that step, you're going to void your application. You know, we're going to in the review process, they're going to look at your documents, and if you just restructure, you know, your company so that you're in one of the 51%, you're 51% in one of the groups that we've just talked about, or something of that nature, you're going to void your application. So don't do that. You don't really need to do anything different. Just follow the guidelines here for applying. And you know, there's as you see here on this slide, I think there's adequate funding given the PPP funds that are still available and everything, and how that's going to, you know, kind of augment this program. I think there's adequate funding to support a number of applications initially, but I think also, as Michael Barrera pointed out, obviously the restaurant industry, food service industry in general was hit really hard. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of applications, a lot of interest. And I think that this program is going to need more funding to meet all of the demand. So don't delay on your application. When this goes live, apply. You see the breakdown here of what's anticipated. $5 billion is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than 500,000, and then an additional $4 billion set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts from 500,000 to 1.5 million. An additional 500 million is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than 50,000. And so those very small caterers and that sort of thing. So anyway, there is, I think, good funding here initially, but this could very well get exhausted within, I'd say, a 90-day time frame. That's just a guess. Obviously, we'll see what that demand looks like when this goes live. Next slide.